Hello, hello. This is the My Artifact episode number 3581. Today's date is September 9, 2025. It's been almost like a night at 9:25 p.m. All right, we directly jump into the question. Let's go. All right. Question is, how do I track how well my business is doing using KPI? Okay. KPI. I'm not really sure what is actually meaning of KPI, but okay, what is actually is this question? Okay. Basically this question is actually about business and startup. Okay, I want to do a business and startup in the future, and for that particular purpose I need to know about how this thing is actually happened, because I haven't really done any kind of like MBAs, or I haven't really done any kind of like a graduation, nothing really at all. Okay, asking this question to myself, kind of like a bit really aware of that what will gonna come, and how do I prepare for that, right? Yeah. Now regarding about specifically this question is actually based on growing your business. Okay, yeah, specifically part of this business strategy and things like that. Okay, yeah. So how do I supposed to know that my business is going well or not? Okay, yeah. Obviously is this thing that ki when we try to think that ki our business is growing or not growing, is kind of like a somebody, how do I supposed to see this thing, how do I supposed to kind of like a, like basically is this thing now from people point of perspective, people say business went failure or business has growing. Okay, this is only two parameter. But as a kind of like, if I'm kind of like establish my business, then I would probably know every statistic, my graph, everything. Like basically on this month, I kind of like a have this much user and this much user and this much user and things and that and that. Okay, yeah. So probably this is what kind of like a something the like I need a kind of like a some dashboard regarding about every possible perspective. Let's just kind of like understand in simple possible way. Okay, yeah. Like you drive the car. Like I didn't really drive the car, by the way. Okay, yeah, I drive the car. Yeah, I drive the car, but like I don't really have it, but I can drive. Okay, like basically somehow I could kind of like I could drive. Okay, not good, but yeah, but when I will have that car I will gonna drive. Okay, yeah, but I'm not kind of like actually asking this kind of like a car point of perspective, but okay, let me try to explain. Okay, yeah. So um so basically is this thing, when you drive a car, okay, yeah, before you drive the car you will kind of like a check everything regarding about your dashboard. Like basically is this thing, how much speed is this, how much fuel is this, or how much is it. Like basically if like basically let's just imagine that key, if you're driving a car without knowing what is actually speed, what is actually or fuel, what is actually the nothing really at all. Okay, yeah, you gonna drive the car, yeah, it's yeah, you're gonna drive, but probably is this thing that ki you don't know where is like a like you don't know the performance, you don't know nothing really about that. Okay, because there is no kind of like a statistic that shows that how is exactly car is actually going or not and things like that. Okay, so this is what kind of like a something is this thing, this is what kind of like a dashboard is. That means like that when you have the dashboard you will know all the parameter regarding about the speed and the fuel and everything. Okay, yeah. For the business is kind of like a something same. Okay, when you are kind of like a driving a business, you need to know that is your business is actually going good or not good or things like that. Okay, yeah. So these are kind of like a something multiple factors that you need to go. Now regarding about my business, regarding about my startup, okay, yeah, how do I supposed to be kind of like a somebody make sure that my business is actually going good or not? Okay, yeah. But let me tell you one thing now. Okay, yeah, for most of the people point of perspective, people kind of like say that key your business is actually growing. Okay, yeah, but if I'm kind of like say, if I'm kind of like actually part of that particular business, then growing is not kind of like a had enough. Okay, what I'm trying to tell you is this thing that key you need to know what is actually your goal. Okay, yeah, doing a business is not supposed to be a goal. Like basically is this thing that key I'm doing a job is like it's not supposed to be a goal. It's like kind of like something you are doing your everyday work. Okay, it's not kind of like a goal. Goal means like that key when you are running a business, what kind of like assembly goal that you have? You need more customer or more user, or kind of like assembly happy customer, or like basically what exactly is this thing? Okay, yeah, you can't be get all those things. Okay, like basically if I'm gonna say if you kind of like a thinking that key, let's just compare the Amazon. Okay, Amazon is a e-commerce website. So basically, is this thing, if I'm kind of like a thinking that key e-commerce website Amazon. So what kind of like a, if I'm kind of like a assembly chairman of the Amazon. Okay, let's just say I'm the Jeff Bezos. Okay, so what would be my kind of like a goal? My goal would be like, let's just say Amazon is not the company that is it right now. No, I'm kind of like a talking about as Amazon is a kind of like a somebody just a company just established right now. Okay, yeah, just almost like a just established five, and it has kind of like a little bit name, that's it. Okay, it doesn't really have that many things. So what is exactly my goal? Okay, what is exactly my kind of like as a chairman, what kind of like is only my goal? My goal is that okay, I wanted to grow my kind of like a company. I wanted to grow my kind of like a something business. But how is exactly this thing? Be more specific. Specific means like that ki, let's just say okay, yeah, if I wanted to grow my company, then probably I'm basically focus on number of customer, like basically how much I will get more and more customer. Okay, yeah. So if I'm gonna say if the more and more customer is actually kind of like a buying some sort of stuff from my online website, so I need to know that ki how does people will gonna buy. Okay, yeah. How does people will gonna buy means like that ki, like if I'm gonna say that ki people will gonna buy some sort of stuff from my website, so how they will gonna do, like basically from you, I have to be lookout from the customer point of perspective. One of the important thing is that ki how they will gonna pay us money. Okay, yeah. So I would have kind of like a some better transaction system regarding about the credit card, debit card, or UPI, or any kind of like a things, net banking, everything, so that the entire transaction happen very smoothly. One thing. Another thing is that ki when the customer came into my website, what kind of like assembly they want, what kind of like assembly they will gonna buy. They will gonna buy clothes or kind of electronics item or things or that. I would kind of like a looking at the parameter that if I'm gonna say 100 out of almost like a 60% of people are kind of like buying electronics item, so I'm gonna make sure that ki in my website have multiple kind of like a something electronics item. Okay, so that kind of like a something existing. Another thing is that ki there are almost like maybe like 38% of people are kind of like buying some sort of clothes or things like that. So I would kind of like only focus on clothes and things like that too. Okay, yeah. But I will kind of like only making sure that I would have kind of like enough stock for kind of like assembly electronics appliances, because it has so much people are actually buying electronics item. Regarding about clothes, I would not gonna buy that many clothes. I would gonna buy kind of like assembly significant amount of clothes which is kind of like assembly really good and things like that. I would go deeper. Like if I'm gonna say that if the people actually buying the clothes, then what kind of like a clothes that they are buying? Female clothes, male, or jackets or pant or whatever it is. I would kind of like assembly figure it out what they exactly buying, and try to give in the kind of like assembly even more variety in the clothes. Okay, so that people would kind of like assembly buy and stuff like that. Regarding about electronics, if the people actually buying more and more electronics, so I'm gonna kind of like assembly make sure that multiple electronics item will gonna listed on my site, like a PS5 or a Walkman or kind of like a DVD player or television or vacuum cleaner, whatever it is. I'm gonna kind of like actually list everything, and as also is in on the stock too. Okay, if my goal is a kind of like a something customer satisfaction, means like that the customer will gonna get kind of like a something product as quickly as possible as I can. So I would bitly focus on kind of like a delivery, that how do I supposed to make the delivery as quickly as possible as I can. So I'm actually focused on multiple retailer outlet, kind of like establish multiple retailer outlets, so that when the customer is kind of like somebody orders something, so I should supposed to be shipment this order as quickly as possible as I can. So I will kind of like build the network regarding about that. I will work on that, figure it out all those merchant and things and retailer, talk to them and kind of like a delivery and stuff like that. I would build the network regarding about that stuff too. So this is what it is. Okay, so basically what I'm trying to tell you is this thing that if you are running the business, you have to make sure that what is exactly your goal. Growing a business, yes, this is kind of like a something very like a universal language. But growing a business means exactly what? Exactly means like a customer, like you need more customer or more customer satisfaction or happy or things or that. Okay, yeah. Obviously, is this thing na ki when at the beginning you might not gonna do anything at all, because obviously you might not have that much amount of money or things or that. So basically, you have to be focused on very niche. Means like that. Let's just imagine if I'm kind of like a some chairman of the Amazon company and just launched almost like a year ago. I have like a, let's just say I have like a millions of dollars of funding. That's it. Okay. So what would I supposed to do? What kind of like some stuff that I would not gonna kind of like some focus on delivery. I would not gonna focus on kind of like some supplements and things and that. No, nothing like at all. I'm gonna focus on that key what kind of like a customer do I have, and kind of like a somebody focus on little bit marketing. Means like that key I would kind of like a somebody focus on niche, so that kind of like a somebody the customer would get kind of like a somebody really good. Let me tell you one thing is that key when you have lot of amount of money, you can do anything. You can focus on multiple parameter, you can focus on multiple growths. Okay, you can focus on multiple goals too, because you have a lot of money, and you can hire multiple people so that they would kind of like work for you. But if you are kind of like a somebody running just a kind of like a just a startup, you not have no you don't really have that much kind of like a funding and things like that. So you are bitterly focused on kind of like a somebody value, that what kind of like a somebody value that you are offering that other people are not offering. Okay, or other kind of like a competition is not offering. So you have to be work on that and create kind of like a somebody unique value, so that people might gonna know. Now regarding about the Amazon is a kind of like a somebody advantage regarding about that ki Amazon is actually launched way early ago. Means like that ki at that time they don't really have that many kind of like assembly competition and things like that, so probably it might gonna work. But right now if I'm gonna launch any kind of like e-commerce website at the moment, so probably it not gonna work, because I need to kind of like a figure it out a kind of like assembly a key value or things like that. Let's just say Blinkit is a kind of like a some e-commerce website. Okay, yeah. And what kind of like a some they are actually offering value, they are actually offer value that key whatever you're gonna buy, it will kind of like a delivered to you within a 30 minute. Okay, yeah. So this is kind of like a simply value that they created. So that's why they are actually a bit more focused on that. So that's why they're actually providing services only in metro city. Like basically I'm living in kind of like a some local city where is Blinkit is not actually providing that services. But if I went to kind of like a metro city like a Bombay or Pune or somewhere at, so basically in that particular time if I kind of like buy something, it will gonna give me within a half an hour. So basically what I'm trying to tell you is this thing, at the moment it is kind of like too much competition. So if you are kind of like a running just a kind of like a common way, then it will not gonna work out. You have to be kind of like a somebody stand out from the crowd. You have to be stand out from the crowd means like that ki stand out from the competition, that ki what kind of like somebody offer that you are valuing, that what kind of like a stuff that you are kind of like a giving the value to the customer, that customer will kind of like a get that thing. Okay, so this is what it is. The Blinkit kind of like a focus on instant delivery, like a within half an hour it will get the delivery. So it will kind of like a simply really best. Okay, yeah. So this is what it is. Okay, yeah. So it's kind of like a somebody is this thing na ki when you are kind of like a somebody running on low cash and things like that, so you just have to focus on kind of like a how do I supposed to give them your customer or user kind of like a somebody very great value or things like that, which is very essential for thing. Okay, yeah. Now regarding about my business, okay, yeah, what kind of like a somebody business that I want, like a what, like how do I supposed to indicate kind of like a somebody growing and things like that, what is actually my goal regarding about artifact. Okay, yeah. My goal is that ki like basically is this thing na ki yes, I wanted to grow my business. I wanted to kind of like have multiple user. I need a kind of like a somebody so many user kind of like a utilize my application and things like that. Yes, this is my goal. But probably is this thing na I can't be kind of like I cannot be achieve all those goals at the beginning, because let me tell you one thing, when I will gonna establish my application, it will kind of like a somebody is this thing I would gonna focus on only niche thing, like a basically is this thing what kind of like a some value that I will gonna offer that people will gonna love. Okay, yeah. And that niche thing is an artifact. Like basically is this thing, this is kind of like a somebody idea that people could kind of like share their thoughts and things like that. Right now I don't really have that any kind of like a some competition who's kind of like a providing that kind of like a some services. So probably at the beginning it might gonna work, but it not. Okay, yeah. Because I also went through this, like I also have experience that ki when I started recording artifact 10 years ago, it kind of like a something so awkward and things like that. It took me 6 months to kind of like a something be regular and things like that. So I need a kind of like a somebody a user can kind of like a record the artifact every single day. So and at the beginning people might not gonna do that thing, like basically they will kind of like a feel really awkward and things like that. So probably what should I supposed to do is that I wanted to kind of like somebody give the value. Okay, that key, what kind of like a value that you get when you record the artifact. I know at the beginning it's kind of like something very much kind of like something awkward and things like that. But when you are kind of like used to win this thing, you are kind of like somebody will really great. Okay, yeah. So my kind of like a bit more focus on that key people should supposed to be kind of like a record the artifact daily. Okay, yeah. So this is kind of like a somebody the goal that we have, and I will kind of like do that thing. Okay, regarding about the marketing point of perspective, I would kind of like simply utilize like basically this thing. I will gonna do the marketing things like that, but I would kind of like a focus on kind of like a creative marketing. Means like that. What's a creative marketing? Creative marketing means like that key way that I do like basically just think there are multiple ways of doing marketing. Okay, yeah. Like basically traditional way of marketing means like that key like hire any kind of like a celebrity or things like that and make the advertisement and it, yeah, but this is not gonna work out that well. Okay, yeah. So probably if I'm kind of like running a business, I have to make sure that ki I have very niche audience, I have very niche user and things like that. So I need to focus on that. I need to focus on that and kind of like a work on them. I need to market in a such a way that those user will kind of like something really feel really good and things like that. Let me tell you one thing. The people will gonna record the artifact. Those people, who are those people? Like basically what is my target audience? My target audience are kind of like some male user. Okay, yeah, male and female user from the age of from the age of 15 to 25. Okay, these are kind of like yeah, very kind of like some specific age. Yeah, this is kind of like something because in this particular period of time, like basically from the age of 15 to 30. Okay, at the age of 15 to 30. So this is kind of like a age range. Okay, yeah. So because of in this particular position, the people are kind of like a went through very horrible situation. Like basically their entire life is actually depend upon what they choose, what they kind of like a do in this particular 15 year. Okay, yeah. So basically is this thing na ki also those people are kind of like a somebody, their life is kind of like a transition from multiple ways, from school to college, college to job and things like that. So it is kind of like a things that na ki, and in this particular age range, they went through multiple changes inside of them. Like basically at the 15 they are kind of like a kids, when they are kind of like a 20s they are kind of like a have little bit of grown up and things like that. They would kind of like do the mistakes and things like that. And after the age of 25, when they get a job, they will kind of like get the responsibility and things like that. So when their life is kind of like been through all those chaos and things like that, so it's kind of like something they really required a kind of like some stuff that they would kind of like share their thoughts and things like that. Okay, yeah. So in that particular period of time, my artifact, like my application will kind of like help them to kind of like assembly whatever your thought process, whatever it is, you just record your things for that. It might gonna kind of like add a little bit value to them, and it will gonna kind of like simply really work on that. Okay, so probably I would actually focus on kind of like what is actually my niche audience, and kind of like a focus on that ki they should supposed to be record the artifact daily. Okay, yeah. I'm pretty sure that ki at the beginning of my startup, I might not get that many user, because definitely definitely is this thing, my application is not meant for kind of like so many user. Definitely not. Like when the application will get viral, then probably this might be another thing. But my focus on that key, I need to make the user should supposed to be record the artifact daily. This is a kind of like the goal that I would gonna focus on that. If the people who kind of like record the artifact daily, then probably is this thing when they will get habit, then probably I would kind of like though that customer will kind of like uh, something that can stick with me for the entire lifetime. Also, yeah, there is also another thing is that I need to be more focused on privacy too. Yeah, because as I mentioned that I will gonna maintain their privacy, means like that whatever the stuff they will gonna mention while they are recording artifact, at the spur of the moment they might gonna mention some sort of name and things like that. So I'm gonna make sure that the name and details students supposed to be kind of like a simply went public or things like that. I need to make sure that those particular part when they kind of like mention their details and things like that, it's supposed to be muted or beep, so that other people might not gonna know and things like that. So this kind of like some stuff that I would gonna work on that. Okay, so probably is this thing na ki at the beginning I have to be more focused on my goal. My goal was that make sure that my customer should supposed to be, or my user should supposed to be record artifact daily. That's it. Okay, yeah. If the customer is actually recording artifact daily and they are actually getting the values, they will kind of like they will recommend this application to the multiple peoples, and yeah, This is like, yeah, this is what it is. So at the beginning, this is, I will kind of like only focus on that. Okay, I would not gonna focus on kind of like a adding multiple user or so many user for things for that or that. No. Okay, so this is what it is. So I would literally focus on this thing. So this is, I would kind of like simply track my business how well is actually doing. By the way, like basically is this thing, if my kind of like a simply business is actually running really well and things and that, right now people are kind of like a recording artifact every single day, then I would kind of like a something do this multiple like basically is this thing, then I would have multiple goals regarding about increase the value, increase the number of the user and things like that and stuff like that. All right, this is it. I should supposed to be end here, and thank you.